name is Hannah Hill. I am a dietetic intern from Purdue University, working alongside Parkview Community Nursing and Parkview Community Health and Wellbeing. So today we're going to be learning new and fun ways to cook different vegetables, such as the squash, because veggies are your life preservers. So today we're going to be working with butternut squash specifically, but there's also all kinds of winter squash that you can use, such as pumpkin, acorn squash, and this here is a spaghetti squash. Butternut squash has a whole host of nutrients such as vitamin A, potassium, and fiber, and so many others, and it helps with blood pressure regulation, digestion, and eyesight. So you may be thinking that butternut squash can only be used with butter and cinnamon and thrown in an oven with brown sugar, but there's actually a whole lot of different ways that you can prepare this vegetable. So for example, today we are going to be making a black bean and butternut squash quesadilla. This butternut squash has a really tough skin, and so what we're going to do is put it into the microwave to soften it so we can cut it up. So we're going to microwave this for 4 minutes, rotating it halfway through, so that way it cooks evenly and the skin is perfectly soft to be cut. I'm going to first start by washing my hands with soap and water. So I've got hot water here. Going to get some soap, and I'm going to lather for 20 seconds, or you can think of it as singing the happy birthday song 2 times. Once I do that, I'm going to rinse it under the hot water until all the bubbles are gone, getting in between my fingers and on my thumbs, and then I'll dry my hands. Now that the skin is nice and soft, we are going to cut and dice and de-seed this butternut squash. So you're going to first start by cutting off the ends. We'll cut off that first end, flip it over, cut off the second end. Make sure you have a nice sharp knife for this, because otherwise it's a lot more dangerous and you could easily cut yourself. After we cut off the ends, we're going to cut it in half lengthwise, top to bottom. Again, butternut squash is pretty thick, so make sure you have a nice sharp knife. Okay. Once that's done, you can see the seeds on the inside. We're going to scoop those out and put them into this bowl. And you can also roast these seeds in the oven with some olive oil, salt, and pepper. And you can put those on top of soups or salads or eat them by themselves. So the reason we cut off those ends is we had a nice steady surface to work with, so the squash isn't wiggling around too much. And you can see I'm holding it on the top right here, so it's nice and steady. Up next, we're going to peel the squash. I have here a paring knife, but you could also use a potato peeler if you have one on hand. You don't really want to eat this outer skin because it's very thick and probably doesn't taste very good. Butternut squash is a very versatile vegetable that you can use in many dishes in replacement of other things. So for an example, you can use it in Latin American dishes in place of the regular carbohydrate you might use, such as rice or beans, or you could add those with it as well. You could also use butternut squash in things like soups or stews, or you could use it to make a pasta sauce. So next we're going to cut this into little strips, about this big, about 1 inch or so. Try to keep your fingers curled like this, so that way the knife doesn't get your fingers, or you can put your hand on top like I am right here. After you have these slices, we are going to cut it into cubes. So you're going to take each strip, like this one, and cut it into cubes about 1 inch, just like that. Make it go a little faster, you can do 2 at a time. What we're going to do now is take the butternut squash and put it into this pot with boiling water. I already had this water boiling from before, but what you want to do to get that ready is to take one of your pots and put about 1 inch of water in there and get it heating until it starts to bubble. If you do not have a pot like this, you could also microwave a butternut squash. You can do that by putting it in a microwave-safe bowl, covering it with the lid but leaving a little corner to let some steam out, and putting it in the microwave for about 3 or 4 minutes. Okay, once we get that all in there, we're going to put a lid on top and let it steam for about 7 minutes until it's tender, or until you can pierce it with a fork really easily. Once this is all done steaming, you can turn off the heat, remove the lid. Be sure to open the lid away from you so that steam doesn't hit you in the face because it's very hot. We're going to take this and we're going to drain it so all the water is poured out of here. And then we're going to transfer the cooked butternut squash back into this bowl so we can assemble the quesadilla. First thing we're going to do is heat up this pan. We're going to turn it on to a medium heat so as not to burn the quesadillas when we're cooking them. We're going to spray it with nonstick spray so that the quesadillas don't stick. We're going to place one of the tortillas down. We're using small ones, but you could even use bigger ones if you wanted to. First, we're going to put a little bit of this cheese on there on the bottom layer. Next, we're going to do black beans. We decided to use low sodium black beans. They often come in a can like this. Most canned items that you're using do have a low or no sodium option, so be sure to look for those to help, especially if you're someone who suffers with blood pressure or other chronic diseases. So after the cheese we just added, we're going to add those black beans. Nice layer of those. And then next, the star of the show, the butternut squash. You can see how vibrant it got after it was cooked. It's a really good idea to get bright colored vegetables like this in your diet on a regular basis because they provide so many amazing health benefits. Okay, after we add the butternut squash, add a little bit more cheese. And then we're going to add some salsa. You can use whatever kind you like, just to give it some flavor. And then we're going to throw on top that last tortilla. And you want it to cook until the cheese is melted and the bottom tortilla is golden brown, and then we're going to flip it, and then it'll be ready to go. So you're going to wait till this gets golden brown on one side and the cheese is all melted, and then we're going to flip it over. Shouldn't take too long for each side to cook, maybe a minute or two. All right, so once that second side is about done, I'm going to turn off this heat. I'm going to transfer this to a nice plate. And then we're able to cut it up. Once you let this cool for a minute or two so it's not so hot to the touch, you can cut it into little wedges. Remembering those claw grips so you don't cut yourself. Then we're going to transfer this over to a plate. And then we're going to garnish it. And you can garnish it with whatever you would like. We are going to use some avocado, so I'll just throw some of those right in the middle. Then we're going to add some cilantro that I already chopped up. Just sprinkle that on there. Adds a little bit of flavor, a little bit of freshness. Then we're going to squeeze on some lime juice as well, again, just for a little more flavor. And then you can even add a little bit more salsa if you'd like to. And then you can enjoy. Thank you so much for watching me use butternut squash in this new recipe. Hopefully you learned something, and now it's your turn to try making these delicious quesadillas.